Welcome to the Fastmarkets Pulp and Paper Podcast, with a summary of the most important stories making headlines and an in-depth interview with an industry leader every week. Today, we'll be talking to John Williams, the CEO of Domtar, just after the headlines. And now, the top headlines from the week of October 12th, 2020. Atlantic Packaging officially announced the construction of a new 400,000-ton paper machine at its mill in Whitby, Ontario. The new machine will make 100% recycled, high-performance, lightweight linerboard and corrugating medium, with a slated start date in the first quarter of 2022. Dayang Paper's 440,000-ton board mill in South Korea was shut after being hit by fire. The fire forced the plant to shut its 2 recycled containerboard machines, and no casualties have been reported at this point. COVID-19 has hit European newspaper publishers, printers, and retailers hard, weighing heavily on paper demand and forcing newsprint producers to cut production and capacity to try to rebalance the market. The Finnish producer UPM announced it was permanently shutting down its Kaipola mill in Finland by mid-December. Kaipola's 3 paper machines will be permanently closed, affecting 448 positions at the mill. The closure will lead to an annual reduction of 450,000 tons of newsprint and 270,000 tons of coated mechanical paper. A major South American pulp supplier tabled a $20 price increase for BHKP in China this week. A major Russian supplier immediately followed suit, announcing a rise of $10 for Russian BHK imports in China. The Saika Group held a groundbreaking event at the site of its first U.S. corrugated packaging plant in Hamilton, Ohio. The 350,000 square foot plant marks the Spanish company Saika's expansion into the U.S. market and represents a $72 million investment. U.S. box shipments dramatically increased in September, according to the Fiber Box Association. Strong corrugated demand caused the September operating rates for U.S. mills to shoot up to 95.9% from 92.1% in August. U.S. containerboard producers are currently seeking a $50 price increase effective at the start of November, and several have announced 8 to 10% box price increases effective mostly in November. Fastmarkets RISI will hold its first virtual International Containerboard Conference from November 4 to November 6, 2020. There's still time to sign up at the early bird rate, which expires on Monday the 26th of October. To register, click on the events section of our website, www.risi.com. And now, we're happy to feature our interview of the week with John Williams, the CEO of Domtar.
Hello, everybody. I'm Greg Rutter. I'm the managing editor of Pulp and Paper Week and the North American editorial team. It's wonderful that we've got John Williams, the Domtar CEO, here with me, and we're going to have a discussion about the Domtar business. Of course, Domtar is the largest uncoated freesheet producer in North America with the number 1 position, and also recently, which has been of high news, we've had a lot of clicks, John, on this, has been the recycled containerboard project at the Kingsport, Tennessee mill. So it's wonderful, John, you're here with us. So thank you for your time.
Thanks, Greg.
Let's start with Pulp, and let me just add one other point for our readers as well, that you, of course, were our 2010 North American CEO of the Year. And of course, those were tough times then, back in 8, 9, and 10. And of course, now with COVID and everything, I don't know your views, but a little similar, not similar at all, much different. Yeah. How do you see that?
Yeah, certainly. Well, I think from if you talk specifically to pulp in the short term, actually pulp demand stayed pretty strong, actually. So, as you know, we're mostly in softwood grades, most particularly, obviously, fluff pulp and northern softwood. And some of the COVID-related demand issues, particularly around tissue and incontinence products, and some of the pantry stocking around kind of baby diapers has really helped that business from a volume standpoint. So we haven't seen any downturn really in pulp volume. And of course, now we have a little bit more pulp to sell once we've taken paper away from our Ashdown mill, and we're happily putting that into the market. So from a demand standpoint, that's been pretty good. On our personal care business, of course, demand's been strong. I mean, the place where demand really slowed dramatically was in our fine paper business. And I would say in sort of September, we're going along at the kind of level we were expecting it to be as we came out of COVID, or as COVID sort of reduced slightly. So, some people are back at work. That obviously makes a difference to our cut size business. So that was where we had to make the big adjustment, I would say, really, in the paper business.
John, quick follow there on uncoated freesheet before jumping back to pulp. What have you seen? The technology sector, of course, we've seen that they've got workers home working all over the place. Anything in cut size that you guys have been able to pick up where there's improvement from that with printing at home?
Well, certainly. That's a great question. So the major customers have, I think, found ways to ship directly to people's homes competitively. And when you look at what's going on in terms of people printing at home, you see actually, the sale of printers for home use and home offices has increased pretty dramatically. I don't have the exact numbers. So there's definitely been a shift where people are at home. Now, they're not printing to the same sort of level of intensity as they were printing in the office environment, but they're certainly printing. So in fact, cut size since the May trough has really come back quite dramatically, not to the previous levels. I don't think anybody had that expectation at this point, but it's certainly come back. I mean, you see the market data says, uncoated freesheet's off about 12%, or it had been off, into sort of 20-25% in May. So, emerging from the trough, I guess, is the way I would characterize it.
Okay, good. No, thank you, John. And then how much has Trump-Pence, if it has, helped on the offset size related to direct mail, with politics? I mean, we always see, as you know, in America, a big push in the last couple of weeks with direct mail and all the political, both coded and uncoded, actually. But yeah, any insight there?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think I can quantify it, but certainly, if I take my own mailbox as an example, I mean, a dramatic amount of political advertising, a lot of it coming through mail. So I think when you look at some of what we would call our merchant business, and that then finds its way, if you like, into printers. I mean, that has, I think, underpinned some of that business. So that certainly in the month of September has been quite strong.
Excellent. Hey, and then John, I'm very interested in this one related to pulp, if you don't mind, and that's with, of course, your NBSK and your SBSK and fluff. Yeah, which of those guys, or how would you kind of just provide insight related to demand growth opportunities with those three? Which is maybe the shining star, if you could? Is it fluff? I mean, I'm just guessing there, but yeah, how do you see that, please?
Well, I think you have to look, Greg, at sort of the markets we're serving. So obviously fluff going into baby reasonably flat, growing in sort of developing countries, but flat in developed countries. And then you look at adult incontinence, of course, growing at quite a clip. So I think that's underpinning the growth in fluff. NBSK, obviously, most of our business now is with tissue manufacturers. That's been growing, paper towel. I mean, that's all been growing. And some of our fluff going into nonwovens, that's been growing. So, we've grown quite nicely in the pulp business. So I haven't seen anything that says there's a demand challenge in pulp. And, we've been able to sell kind of everything that we've intended to sell, actually.
Yeah, gosh, John, watching consumer retail tissue, I think up 18% in the last 52 weeks. Yeah, pretty darn strong there.
Right, and I think, the good news about that is that's actually usage. It's not just pantry loading. So, I would say on the diaper side, the baby diaper side, pantry loading gave us a bump, and then, in the following quarter, there was a hole about the same size of a bump. But, tissue looks to me like, and, you've seen a lot of capacity coming on stream in the US. So, there's plenty of runway, I think, in the tissue business for that reason.
Definitely. Okay, good, John. And then two quick ones, please, on pulp. One is Espanola, but the other first is Ashdown, or whichever order you'd like. But yeah, the Ashdown project, how does that look? If you could just update that in terms of when that may be starting up. And then also on Espanola, I'm assuming that means you can do a bit more open market on the NBSK that you do there, or after doing the project, or just a little insight, please.
Yeah, so certainly, I mean,
much appreciated.
Certainly on Ashdown, we would say probably in 6 to 7 months we'd have that softwood available. So maybe a little bit sooner. So we're going along very nicely on the project. No real challenges for us. Espanola, of course, it's really all about simplification. So it's not really impacting the amount of pulp we sell out of Espanola. It's just making us a more reliable supplier, because we've had a sort of rather patchy record in terms of the way we've run that asset, just based on the age of the asset and some of the challenges it faces. So we're busy sorting that out. And that's a work in progress, but actually currently, we're running pretty much to plan on Espanola.
And then, John, if I could, on a smaller one, on the weight paper side, we saw the case related to thermal, and as you know, there was the lightweight case going way back, and now there's this one. Yeah, any insight there? Again, it's moving now and it's out there, but in terms of imports, they've been there on the thermal side, but at the same time, as you know very well in this country, with what's gone on in retail, there's been an effect, I assume, on people. So, and then with imports coming in, I'm guessing at very low numbers. Yeah, if you could just kind of, I know it's a legal situation now, but just kind of give us a little color on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think the case kind of speaks for itself, really, Greg. So I wouldn't go into any more detail, but I think we believe very strongly that product has come into this country that's been dumped into this country. We think we have very strong evidence. Our partners in the United Steelworkers feel the same way, and of course Appian feel the same way. So we feel confident, but one can never prejudge the legal process, that we have a strong case.
Okay, good. No, thank you, John. And of course, going back here, I don't want to date ourselves too much, but you and I first met, I believe, well, it was close to 25 years ago, when you thankfully spoke at one of our international containerboard conferences in Chicago. And so I'm using a little transition here.
Thank you so much for reminding me. It's been that long, Greg.
Please update us on Kingsport, where it stands in terms of the ordering of equipment and everything and anything you can, please.
Certainly. Well, as I think we've told everybody, as we told everybody in our earnings call, we've ordered the sort of back end recycling piece. We're very close to placing the order for the machine, what we need to do to the machine. We feel very much on time. I think we might, we're hopefully going to be maybe, a few weeks earlier than we were initially planning. And, we have let go now all the people who were making uncoated free sheet. We've kept a group of people. We're reaching out to the customer base, which is actually, and they're reaching out to us, which is very interesting, actually, because obviously we're talking largely to independents, and
yes,
they're all very positive about what they see happening in the box market, and they're all very positive about their position in the box market and are looking to expand. And I think some of them, would give you a message that says they're perfectly well aware that the integrateds will, for perfectly logical reasons, prioritize their own box plants. And so they feel a little constrained perhaps in their growth because of that. So they're welcoming somebody who will come in and support the independents with open arms. So I think we're feeling very good about our ability to sell, 600,000 tons of testliner competitively within the domestic market.
Fascinating. And if you could, just a little feel on, again, I know it would vary, but what do you hear mostly from these folks that want to be able to buy tons from Kingsport? Are they the type that say, well, we'll test it and then we want to do a 3-year, 5-year kind of thing? Or does it, is it all over the map? Or just a little sense. The reason why I ask that is related to what you just said. When you've got an integrated position that's big and slowly getting bigger, it seems like, in the market, how as an independent, do you put yourself in position to be where you obviously want to be?
It would be presumptuous of me, I think, to speak for an independent box provider. But of course, I could give you my experience in Europe. I mean, the independents were always aggressive. They always had a more aggressive service model. They typically had very close relationships with key customers that were kind of owner to owner in a way that obviously corporates can't do. And,
Yes.
they'd build out some kind of service model in certain instances that would make them more competitive. And then if you think about the independent containerboard producer, of course, they have the Prowells in Europe, they'd have a different model to kind of pretty much everybody else. So, my view here is that positioning ourselves as a containerboard supplier who is really going to help that independent compete and mean it. So that obviously means, we have to think about the grades we're supplying and the geography we're supplying. We think is very compelling. And the anecdotal evidence, and at this point, one would be foolish to say it's any more than that, is very clear that actually they have a need for a supplier like that. So I come away feeling actually pretty positive and pretty confident that, the way we're positioning ourselves and what that means to us in terms of grade and supply and service, I think we're right on the money.
And then, John, there'd be the connector there through them as well to e-commerce, and the Amazon types, because I'm assuming that's, your board would go to them on their corrugators to make boxes. And I don't know what number, maybe a third that go through to e-commerce or 50%. I don't know. But yeah, is that a fair way to kind of look at it or not really?
I don't necessarily see that that's the way to look at it, to be honest with you, Greg. I mean, I think we're going to be in the open market. The corrugator will decide who he sells to, but there's absolutely no question that everybody is getting growth from that marketplace. So I mean, I think as we find some independents who are in that marketplace, then I think our offering, especially lightweight, especially test liner, becomes very compelling.
And John, two follows, if I could, related to just the plans for the machine. Yeah, would you, we saw this with Bear Island, where they mentioned as low as 18 pounds. Would you be looking with a similar kind of 18 to 42 range? That's the first question. The second one quickly is, how much mixed would you think of taking in there? Would you be an 80-20, 70-30, or more like a 90-10 in terms of OCC to mix?
I think that's all a bit too
John.
Public. A bit too granular for the public market, Greg. So I think we keep both of those to ourselves.
Okay. All right. Very good. Excellent. Right. So the startup there is likely to be the end of 21, or actually, I'm sorry, first quarter 22. That's the plan, right?
That's right.
Yeah. Anything else that you can update, John, please, on the Kingsport project? Fascinating one. No,
I think we feel very confident. We're about to place the order for everything we need for the machine. I've got a great team. I have people who've done this before, so I've got a lot of containerboard expertise embedded in the business. So feeling pretty good about it. I mean, obviously, like everything, it's a major project. We're going to have to run it carefully. We're going to have to make sure we get it right. But so far, so good. Okay, good.
Yeah, no, and I apologize. I didn't mention, right, and that was the reason I was so interested in having you speak, was your SCA, back in those days experience. So you certainly bring a lot of experience to the table, understanding the containerboard to box business, it seems to me. So I apologize for not saying that earlier.
That's quite right. My people are far more important in this than I am, I assure you.
Hey, and John, one other side question. And you're going to still be aboard, I assume, when the machine starts up. I mean, that's the plan, correct? In terms
Indeed,
of,
I want to drive the first truck of containerboard to the first customer, Greg.
Oh, geez. Oh, that's okay. That's wonderful to hear, John.
I'll be in the passenger seat, I assure you, but for all our safety. But yeah, I want to see that through, because I think it's obviously this is the beginning of a journey. I think we've been very clear about what we think that journey is in terms of future opportunities. So, this is a key strategic move for Domtar that I feel very positive about, and actually we all do. So I think it's important to see it through.
Well, I mean, it's been a wonderful career for you since Mars all the way through in the paper industry. So what a great.
I do wish you'd start reminding me about the longevity of. It's not fair, Greg. You know, it's not fair.
Okay. Anyway, John, thanks very much for your time. As always, it's wonderful to speak with you, and wish you nothing but the best of luck, not only to you and your family going forward, but of course to the company with the projects and plans and everything. So we thank you very much for your time.
Listen, I much appreciate it, and as ever, I just want to thank your organization for your interest in Domtar. So take care and thanks.
Okay. Yep. Take care, John.
Thank you for listening to our first demo episode of the Fastmarkets Pulp and Paper podcast. We'd love to get your feedback on content, format, or any other aspect of this demo episode. Please send your feedback by email to me, Matt Graves, at mgraves@fastmarkets.com.